Hello once again to live chat with Mr. Leong Sze Hian here. We're going to do something special first, which is to do an update on what's the crowdfunding results so far.
Okay, as of about 1 hour ago,
Yeah.
the amount is $90,759, 90759. So thank you very much. I'm really very, very grateful for your support and encouragement.
That's more than half already, isn't it?
90759 of 133, yeah, more than half already.
1.5. Do you envision reaching 100,000 by end of the day?
Yeah, maybe you'll reach 100,000 by tonight.
Okay. How about end of this week? Do you think that we can reach the target of 133,000?
Actually, a lot of people tell me that I should reach the 133,000 by the end of the week.
I see.
Today is only Wednesday.
Yeah, today is Wednesday.
So
okay,
what
great.
do you think? Okay.
I hope we could reach the 133,000 by end of the week, and you could just like don't have to worry much by then.
So did you expect the support to be so good?
Well, I'm a bit divided because if you were to compare the results that the Workers' Party had in their crowdfunding, they raised 1 million over a span of 3 days. But of course, there is a difference. There is a difference here because for their case, there was 250 people who donated, raising $1 million. Whereas in your case, you had, I believe yesterday you noted that there was 1,200 people who donated, raising a sum of 85,000. So your donors are more are the small sum donors, whereas in the case of
mine mostly ikan bilis one.
Your smallest was like
$2.91. The highest one is 5,000.
Yeah, so
the most common ones are like $50, $20, and surprisingly $13.
Have anyone approached you say want to pass you cash?
Yeah. Just yesterday, I had free latte. Then the person gave me ang pao.
Okay.
Then I had the free steak, lobster, beef, and barbecue pork ribs. Also, the person give money.
Okay. So for those people who are wondering, why do we have an image of Lawrence Wong here behind us? The topic that we're going to touch here today is on the issue of the HDB, or we point it as the HDB dilemma for the Singapore government and also for for homeowners and would-be homeowners. The problem is highlighted when in 2017, if I'm not wrong,
March 2017.
Yeah, March 2017, when Lawrence Wong warned people that yes, do not assume that your HDB will be eligible for CERS, and that is what most people are looking forward to when it comes to buying their HDB, especially aged HDB, where they could have a handsome reward after purchasing such HDBs.
That must be arguably the most stressful statement that ever given by Minister for Singaporeans. More than 1 million HDB flats. All of a sudden, they are reminded that after a 99-year lease, your flat is worth nothing. All the CPF and all the cash you use, in a sense, will all be gone up in smoke.
But that's actually further made worse by the fact that a lot of people are being given this impression that HDB prices will always go up and never come down, isn't it?
Yes, because for decades, we were told that HDB is an asset enhancement policy, so it's a good way to build your assets.
Like even for the Lee Kuan Yew, he emphasized that your HDB value would never drop.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, he said that I think in 2018 prior to
So now the trend, is that once a flat is more than 40 years old, generally speaking, the price start to drop.
Okay. From a financial point of view, why is that so?
No, because once a flat is more than 40 years, is there are restrictions on the amount of CPF you can use, and the restrictions on the amount of loan you can borrow. Right. So, and of course, right at the end of the day, you are moving nearer to the end of the 99-year lease when your flat will become worthless.
I would say most important is that most people purchase their flat using loan.
And HDB to pay.
HDB to pay. So even if I'm willing to pay $500,000 for this HDB flat, I do not have the cash on hand to pay out that sum. So I would have to go and get a loan from either HDB or is it the bank. But the age of the house basically restrict myself from applying for the loan, because my age plus the age of the house would make myself ineligible for that.
So generally speaking, for a lot of people, most people, once your flat is more than 40 years, you may have a problem getting the loan that you could have gotten if the flat was not so old, and there may be more restriction on the use of your CPF. Now actually, the minimum occupation period is 5 years. Okay, so in a sense, the problem is compounded. Say I buy one at 40 years old, right? I have to wait until 45 years old, then I can sell, right? By the time, the lease is getting even nearer, so the amount of CPF I can use and the loan I can borrow for the next buyer is even lower. And this is the reason why you find that the demand for older flats will start to drop, because of this anomaly of the pricing, right?
Especially after Lawrence Wong made that speech.
Yes, because before the 2017 March announcement reminding people that your flat will become useless, almost everybody had the impression that, it's an asset enhancement policy, my flat will always increase in value. And worst come to worst, very old, it will be SERS, selective en bloc redevelopment, then they will compensate me, I can buy another flat, right? But of course, we have reached a stage where there are so many flats, it's physically impossible to have selective en bloc development and redevelop all the older flats as they reach the older age of the flat.
To combat this the situation brought about by the announcement, the incumbent government announced introduction of VERS.
Yes.
So what's your thought about VERS?
So VERS is voluntary en bloc. Okay. So the usual SERS now, right? The government will tell you, say, okay, I've selected your block for SERS. Then you decide, whether you want to or you want to vote for it. I think it's more than 75% agree or what, then they will do it or something. Okay. But VERS is different. It's called voluntary, right? That means it's not the government who is asking you. The government asks you, you all want to together volunteer to do it or not. So what the government has announced is that the VERS will be different from the SERS in one very important aspect, and that is the amount of money that you may be compensated. Okay, because VERS will be less than SERS.
Do you think VERS?
But of course, the other problem is that SERS has been announced will only start in 20 years' time. VERS will only start in 20 years' time, right? So.
Whether or not you address the issue.
Yeah, you don't have a crystal ball to see what's going to happen. If the flats continue to drop in price in 20 years' time, you know what's going to happen, right? Yeah.
Someone asked, why do we have to pay for incurred interest for CPF buying for a flat? What's your thought on that?
Okay, your CPF is your own money. So when you take out your own money, when you sell the flat, you have to put back your CPF into your CPF because that's your own money, right?
Yes.
So of course you have to put back the interest that would have accrued, right? Had your money been left in your CPF, the interest that you put back is also your money.
Yes.
Right. If there's no accrued interest on CPF, then everybody will take out the CPF, and then keep the interest to spend or something. So the principle is that it's your money, the interest is your money. Okay, and you must wait until 55, 65 when you meet your retirement sums. Then you can withdraw.
Before we go further and forgetting about this topic, have you met any cases where people could not pay back this interest?
It's rare, but there are, because the problem is, if you buy your flat at a certain price and your selling price is not enough to cover the interest, then you have a problem. Because your CPF interest is growing all the time.
Yes.
So if you buy a flat and when you sell, the proceeds, the net proceeds, is not enough to cover the CPF accrued interest. Then you have a minus situation. But not to worry, when you have minus situation, you don't have to cough up the money to put it back. It's just that first issue, of course, if your flat, the price is so low that you have no cash proceeds, okay? Then if it's so low that you cannot even cover the interest, then of course you don't have to pay for the interest.
Oh.
Yeah, you cannot force the guy to cover up the interest, right? Because he sold his flat at below CPF plus accrued interest value.
I see. Okay. So the problem that we have today is that.
Wait, let me just expound a bit. Then if you buy a second BTO flat, then there's a resale levy, you see. So you got to factor this in, no? So sometimes once you factor the resale value, you may have no cash proceeds. You may also not enough to pay back your CPF interest. Now resale levy is when you buy your second new flat. If you buy a resale flat, there's no resale levy.
And the thing is, you have to pay first before the transaction can proceed, isn't it?
No. I think the contractor can proceed. Just that you have to factor in. I got to pay the resale levy. I got to put back my CPF and accrued interest. Okay. Then after that, got any money got left? There's profit. No. If have, then you have cash profit.
There was cases where the individual do not have the cash upfront or the ability to pay off the incurred interest, etc., before they can actually sell their flat.
No. It doesn't work like this. The resale value only comes when you buy your second flat. Okay? So it's not when you want to sell your flat that the resale levy comes in. Right? If you sell your first flat and you don't buy another HDB flat, there's new one. There's no resale levy.
Sure. So now we come to the dilemma. So the thing here is, a lot of people basically use their CPF to pay for HDB. And basically, at the end of their retirement, all the money is being stuck in the form of HDB. And with what Lawrence Wong introduced, a lot of people would see their retirement funds shrinking as their HDB flat reach 40 and beyond. And on top of the retirement issue for many Singaporeans, you also have the issue of HDB being overpriced for many aspiring homeowners as the young couples, especially since the income does not climb, the median income does not climb as steep as the BTO prices.
Yes, HDB prices has been increasing much faster than wage increases.
What's your thought on that? Should public housing be priced in such a way?
We probably have one of the most expensive public housing in the world. If you count price divided by income, I think it's about 5 times or something for Singapore.
But a lot of people would support this idea because would justify saying that despite the high prices, a lot of Singaporeans still able to own HDB flats.
Of course, there are trade-offs in everything in life. Let me give you one perspective. Right? A person start work at 21. Okay, his pay only $1,100, which is, I think the lowest in town, right? And if his pay increased by just 2% per annum, in most other countries, even if the pension fund return is like 5%, right? Which is quite normal, right? He will have about $1 million when he's 65 years old, right? So in the Singapore situation, since a lot of the CPF is used to pay for the HDB, then when they come to retirement, there's very little left for retirement in terms of cash. So if you look at the numbers, slightly more than half of active CPF members can reach what is known as the basic retirement sum. Now the full retirement sum now is 186,000. Basic retirement sum is half, which is 93,000. So basic retirement sum, BRS means you pledge your house, your HDB. That's why it become half.
Yes.
So the latest statistics, only about half of active CPF members can meet the basic retirement sum. Now, active CPF members account for about maybe 6 in 10 of all CPF account holders. That means every 10, 4 are inactive CPF account holders. Inactive means something like didn't make a CPF contribution in the last 3 months or something. So if you're looking at 60% who are active and slightly more than half can meet the basic retirement sum, you're looking at around 30% of the population who can meet the basic retirement sum. But if you say if 30% can meet the basic retirement sum, what about those who can meet the full retirement sum, 186,000? It's probably even less. Probably it's about 20% or something. No, even if you meet the full retirement sum, you're looking like $1,000 a month income, right, for the rest of your life. Okay, so if you are talking about only meeting the basic retirement sum, you're looking at half of that, few $100, right, for retirement.
That wouldn't be enough, is it?
Yeah, I think there are some studies that calculated that you need like $1,300 a month to retire or something. Very
for the senior. You're not talking about a family. You're talking about a person who has already relinquished all financial family commitment, just spending for retirement. That's how 1,379.
So it's like a dilemma, I mean, a lot of people they use most of their CPF or even plus cash to buy HDB.
Yes.
Then when they retire, if the flat is very old, they got a problem, right? The longer the wait, generally the price keeps dropping.
But isn't that a problem from the very beginning? Because how can you expect your retirement funds to be in the form of a property where you are expected to spend the next 30, 40 years, maybe based on our increasing life expectancy, as your as the liquidable asset meant for retirement?
Well, before 2017, the announcement of the reminder of 99-year lease, most people had the perception that, hey, don't worry, my HDB always increase in value, right? So I can always cash out, see? So what is the problem? So now you have a double whammy, yeah.
Okay, even if that works out, so looking at the price, we are talking about a five-room HDB could reach up to $600,000. Based on that kind of mindset, does it mean that a HDB eventually will come to 1 million or? Because if that were to go on, and if we were to expound on that notion, how would the generation two, three generations after be able to afford such public housing? Because what we're seeing is just 30 years odd after the creation of public housing in Singapore. What about 40 years later? Because this system, it is today, doesn't seem to be sustainable.
The dilemma may simply get bigger. As your price of HDB flats keep increasing, more people using more of their CPF, then as the flat get older, they start declining in value. Then you may not have enough to cash out for retirement. Then at the end of the 99-year lease, your flat, your CPF, your cash used for the flat is all gone.
What will happen then? What will happen then? If say I stay in a HDB flat, if initially with this idea that I would want to cash out for a good price, but I love my place, I stayed, and I have fond memories of that location.
Of course, you can downgrade your flat along the way, or you can choose a HDB lease buyback scheme, or silver housing scheme, right? Yeah.
But is that worth it? Because from what I understand, even if you say go for the buyback lease or silver scheme, the difference is about only 100,000, 200,000.
Of course, it depends on a case by case basis. I think that the problem in the lease buyback scheme is you are selling your HDB flat away for some money, so that you can continue to stay for another 30 years or something like, yeah.
Or to stay there.
To stay there,
but no longer there will be any cash value because the moment
because you have sold away the equity in your flat. Then the amount of money that they top up for you, most of it is CPF. You have to top up your CPF account and apply it to CPF Life Scheme.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so there's a break screen. So there are some individuals or entities that have proposed alternative housing policies for the HDB. So one of this is FOSG. They suggest that HDB provide a affordable 99-year lease top up after 50 years. Fund the rebuilding of HDB flats, and also match BTO and retirement flat price with their construction fees, and also providing sufficient and affordable rental flats for low-income Singaporeans. What's your thought on that?
Okay, let me try to answer all these questions.
Yes.
Starting from the base, right?
Yes.
What is the problem?
Yes.
Okay, and then what possibly can be done to slowly, gradually turn the levers to solve this problem, because every one of these affects something else.
Yes.
Okay, so the main issue today is firstly your demand for HDB flats. Whenever there's a HDB flat, there's always more people than what they can supply. All right, that of course, one way will push up the price.
Yes.
Okay, so one suggestion, I think is not here, right, is that you can stop allowing PRs to buy HDB flats.
In fact, it's not in all.
Somewhere else, somebody else.
No, because even for the so SDP basically proposed a non-open market scheme where people cannot the flats basically do not go into resale. Basically, they sell back to HDB. Whereas for Workers' Party, Workers' Party's idea is what's the idea? Actually, I don't think they actually propose how to sell the flats. But basically, all the policies so far, they have not said about anything about not allowing
okay.
HDB.
So my suggestion is the price of course depend on the supply, demand, and other factors. So if you stop allowing PRs to buy HDB flats, the demand will be lower. Okay. Now, that means the family nucleus, in order to buy a HDB flat, whether new or resale, must have at least one citizen. Because now you can have no citizen, and PRs can buy a resale flat.
Okay, on that topic, I think you can hear me now. So, what's your thought about allowing PRs to purchase HDB flats? Do you think that plays in part in how?
Yeah, of course, it drives up the price. You see, now the minimum occupation period is like 5 years. But if you go back in history, there was a time when the minimum occupation it was 3 years. So for PR, you can buy and 3 years later you sell. Okay, of course now it's 5. Okay, so if you stop, I think most countries in the world don't allow public housing to be purchased other than by citizens.
Do you understand the basis of why they allow such practice in the first place?
There may be many reasons, but one possible reason was it was announced some time back that they had a glut of larger flats for many years. So they had to sell them away because there was no demand for larger flats.
I believe that was 1997. Isn't it?
I can't remember the exact year. Quite some time ago.
During Ma Baotan's
era, yes, correct.
Where they built a lot of flats.
They stopped building the smaller. They stopped building 2-room flats.
So they were building a lot of flats in anticipation that people from Hong Kong would flood over after.
So when you have a case of supply too much for demand, you have to increase demand. So one easy way is to allow PRs to buy. Because in the beginning of HDB, only citizens can buy when HDB was formed.
Yes. Okay. So you're proposing that PRs cannot purchase.
Yeah, it's like in Australia, you want to sell your house or flat, can, only to a citizen. So same, once you implement such a policy, then the PRs who already own HDB flats, if they want to sell, they have to sell only to citizens. Of course, no new PRs can buy.
Will you foresee any issues coming after that? No, right?
I don't think so, because the issue is this. I mean, in most countries, if you offer permanent residence, it's normally for people can afford housing, you know what I mean? Right? Yeah. If most countries won't make a foreigner to be a permanent resident if you cannot even afford basic, public housing prices. You know.
Someone suggested that the allowing PRs to purchase flat is meant to drive the prices of HDBs up, and in turn, make the voters happy because they are holding their assets appreciate in price, and therefore, benefit the incumbent.
Yeah, yeah. If I increase demand, then the price go up. The people who already have HDB flats will be happy. Say, oh yeah, the price keep going up. But as you can see now, we're in a dilemma, you know, right? The price is not going to keep going up, right? And the price has reached a stage where even to buy a new BTO flat, it has become unaffordable for many people.
Yes, and this problem would further amplify in like 10, 20 years if this were to continue.
So the first suggestion is to reduce the supply. PRs cannot buy HDB anymore.
Reduce the supply?
No, once you do that, reduce the demand. Okay. Okay. Now the second problem, of course, is the price, right? Okay. Why is the HDB so expensive? Because the land cost of a new BTO flat is charged at market rates. Now people have asked many times, but they don't break down what is the price into land and construction and others. But we estimate at market rates, the land component of the BTO price is probably about 55%.
Okay, before we go into this, I think it's paramount that we address this. Okay, so someone pointed out that in Australia, PR citizen or visa holders could buy and sell houses. But this is private.
But you must see. You must see the number of PRs we give away. You know, right? Every year we grant 31,000 new PRs. No? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure whether the stat applies to public housing, because I think in Australia, in fact, in most countries, the amount of there's 2 factors. One is the amount of PRs that we give out. We are talking about like over 1 million. No, in fact over 1 million PRs, and also the ratio of public housing, because over in Australia, a lot of the houses are private houses, not much of public housing. Public housing basically you would have to feed a certain eligibility in order to cater for it. Yeah, that's one.
You see, yes. I think Singapore in a sense is unique, because we keep grant new PRs 30,000 a year. Okay.
Yes.
New PRs.
Does, yes.
Okay. So if you continue to allow PRs to buy HDB flats, then this demand will just keep growing, you know. Right? Then your price will keep going also. Then it become unaffordable for citizens.
I think one in terms of logic, what really baffles me when allowing PRs to purchase flats is that PRs, they are not citizens here. So basically they are not tied here to Singapore. So that what it means to them is that, say, after holding PR, I work here for 10 years, 20 years. When it's time is up, I get retrenched, or I've decided I work long enough, I can just return to where I came from, whether it's China, India, Indonesia, Philippines, and I can still hold on to the flat, isn't it?
Yes.
And subsequently just charge rent, and that income basically can sustain me for.
And of course, PRs who generally speaking, if they say they don't ever want to return to Singapore to work, they can sell the HDB and withdraw all the CPF and leave Singapore also.
Yes,
but this don't apply to Malaysian PRs. Malaysian PRs the same rules as Singaporeans.
I believe Malaysia is East Malaysia.
East Malaysia is slightly better. From 50, they can do this. Say I'm not coming to work anymore. Sell HDB, take all the CPF, go. But for Malaysians, it has to we're under 55, same like Singaporeans.
Yeah. That's the problem. Okay. So, can you refer to this image?
So. Okay.
So I think this is the only breakdown that we have seen so far from in regards to the building of a HDB flat.
What year is this?
1981.
1981.
Yeah, from Straits Times.
Wow, you see the land cost is so small, compared to the construction cost. Now we estimate, look at this one.
No, and the thing is, back then the price is not. So yes, this is the cost that's involved, but the buyer do not see the land cost, isn't it?
Yeah,
back
yeah,
then,
yeah.
basically the land.
So you see, like the first one, 100,000 total cost. The land cost is 90,500. It's only less than 20%. Yeah.
Correct.
Now it's about
More than
55%.
half.
We estimate.
Yeah, it's more
you
than
know.
half.
So in those days, the land cost obviously wasn't charged at market rates.
Yeah. So, and for the longest of time, I think, whether it's opposition politician, whether it's civil activists, academics, they were asking for the breakdown of how much it costs. But
So must search time, then can find all one.
yeah, but in one of your articles, you have pointed out that if you were to look at some of the construction companies, you could actually reverse.
Yeah, that's why we estimate the land cost probably around 55% of the BTO price now. So to address the core problem of HDB is expensive, right? Okay,
Yes.
A lot of people can afford low income. So my suggestion is you have to gradually reduce the land cost component. Okay, now it's 55. Maybe you gradually reduce to 50, 45, 40. Now, why gradually? Because you cannot turn 180 degree overnight, The whole market will collapse, right? You have to turn it slowly and see what's the reaction of the market, what's the reaction of Singaporeans. Then you slowly tweak the policy. But at the end of the day, once you start doing that, the prices of HDB flats will not be rising as fast as they have been in the past.
But this becomes a problem, isn't it? Because this is a problem that is built into the system, in which if we do not continue in this rate of appreciation, people who have paid for the HDB flats, particularly say those in the 400,000, 500,000, right, will be caught with a time bomb in their hand.
No, that's why I say gradually. I'm not saying like,
Yes.
your land cost straight away becomes zero.
No,
or
of
what.
course.
You just drop at say 5%, start and see what happens, slowly, gradually. Because if you don't do this, this dilemma gets bigger and bigger.
Yes, but which is why I'm more inclined to the SDP model of creating a what's the model again? Their model was non-open market scheme.
Actually, the government has already done that. Now they're selling flats from 15 to 45-year lease.
But that's only
Yeah.
for the silver scheme, right? Those people who are
No. Even younger can.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I believe there's
Yeah. Of course, a priority given to older people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the problem here, right, is, let's say if I were to buy this flat at $500,000, and if there are policy introduced to slow the inflation and also to reduce the cost of public housing, so to cater for more people, by the time I anticipate to cash out my flat may be lower or equal to the price that I have purchased. And if you could include in the loan, the interest from the loan, I might be looking at additional $200,000 or $100,000 that I have to fork out. Because correct me if I'm wrong, I see. By the time, if I purchase a flat that's 500,000 and at a annual rate of 2%, at the end of 40, 50 years, I'm looking at paying another $200,000 in terms of interest. So, meaning if I'm expected to get that amount that I put in terms of retirement funds, right, I should be looking at $700,000. Because if not, I'm looking at a loss, or say I pay some.
So right from the beginning, the new flat price,
Yes.
the appreciation should not be as what it has been in the past so fast. Because of the land cost. Now the question is this: which will have a bigger impact on the overall HDB market? Okay, if I introduce 99-year flat with no value, will it impact the market more? Or if I have a small gradual change and reduce the land component starting by 5%? I would think that of course nobody knows for sure. You got to test and try, right? Reduce 5% land cost, see what happens. Because I suspect if you say, okay, you have 99-year lease flats that have no value, that may have a much bigger impact than the reducing the land cost. When I say impact, I mean the effect on the market. No?
Yes.
Yeah, because the
Perception.
the perception, right? If you don't want to have a situation where HDB prices start falling very fast, you know. You want to keep them wherever possible stable, but don't increase so much.
Someone said that you should not micromanage the housing costs. What do you think about that?
It depends what the question means by micromanaging the housing.
Okay, I think
cost.
if I were to actually look at it, is you should allow the market to work its way. So instead of trying to so-called keep on adjusting, trying to expect a certain return, you should allow the supply and demand to work its way.
Well, in a sense, the question is correct, because right now the land is charged at market rates. Why? Because people are still buying, right? So if the land cost is reduced, let's say by 5%, then it's more affordable. Does it mean that even more people will buy?
No.
Yeah. So all these things you have to tweak. Then because the policy issue. Okay. I think this basically person is right. Don't try to change prices to attain an objective, right? That is to keep the HDB prices going, right, up. Yeah.
So this I don't know how to pronounce your name though. So this person actually pointed out that public housing should not be used for speculation, and I strongly agree to this idea. This upcoming waterfront property at Tanjong Pagar, so they're gonna change out the pier, the port, and change it to a waterfront housing, and the thing is, it's going to be BTO, obviously. Those people who could apply for it either can afford it, or they are just trying their luck. So it's okay. It's okay. I don't have to worry whether or not I can sustain for the next 30, 40 years on loan. But I simply could just buy it and hope that by the time I reach the MOP, I could make a windfall, 120, 200. And that is a problem. And this is a problem I see with the public housing. Even my friends of my same age, basically when they purchase HDB flat the first time, they are looking to make a windfall from that BTO application, and subsequently use that windfall and downgrade. That's why all the couples would try for a 5-room HDB, and then go for a resale 4-room flat. Don't you think this is actually a very perverse way of managing your public housing?
Well, let me say it this way. Fundamentally and morally, I think you're right. The person asked the question, why should public housing be allowed to be so speculative?
Yeah.
First, fundamentally, it's correct. But then you have a problem where this is a policy that's been going on for decades, right? If overnight you say, okay, no more speculation HDB flats, the entire market will collapse. We'll go into a recession, no? Right? So you have. So, like I said, fundamentally, I agree, right? It shouldn't be speculative, but then you have to adjust the policy slowly, right? You cannot say overnight, say no more speculation, because the moment you reduce the land costs gradually, the speculation was, well, in theory, start to come down.
No, which is why with consideration of what we have today, right, the idea of having a non-market scheme, right, makes more sense, because those people who have already gotten their hands on a pricey property, right, they would want the market, the supply and demand market, to continue to thrive, because that's where they could see their retirement fund coming in. But those people who are going into the public housing in hope of getting a home for the next 99 years, right, they will wish to see the price coming down, because that's where they could afford it, and they have no intention of thinking of selling their flat in the next 5, 10, 20 years. So if you have two different market, meaning a market in which when you purchase a flat, you could sell it for higher returns in years to come, and then another market in which when you sell your flat, you sell back to HDB. So you don't sell you basically sell for whatever is remaining of your lease. So in that sense, it's fairer for both sides, and also the government. That's why.
Of course, fairness is one of the arguments.
Yes.
But I think what's even more important is that the question is, how many flats do you want to be this no value one? You know, how many are going to introduce in the beginning? How many more you're going to have? Because all this will impact the market.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. If it's too much, the market might collapse. Okay. If it's a very small increment to test the market, maybe there's no effect on the market.
But how about when if
we have to balance all these fundamental, moral, ethical, philosophical policies with what will be the implications and impact on the market. That's why I say slowly you test, you turn one lever, right, and see what happens.
I see. But what if the house owner could simply purchase the thing, when upon purchase, choose what scheme to enroll in?
You have to test maybe a bit first.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's too much, what we don't want is a situation where the market collapse, or existing HDB owners will say, because of the policy change, my flat will start to decline in value already, right? You know, then you have a big problem.
Like what happened in Lawrence Wong's announcements.
Yeah, correct, right. So, you know, like I said, it's a complex issue. Turn this lever a bit, see what happens, then you can adjust. Because every lever affects, you know, the rest of the market.
You know, I think the funny thing is, while there was a slight market correction when Lawrence Wong made that announcement in 2017, don't you think that there will be a second readjustment when the flats really reach the point where they could apply for the loans? Because currently there's still a lot of flats, basically they are aged, but they are not there yet.
Yeah, there are a lot reaching 40 years. I would tend to agree with you, you know. The so-called tsunami hasn't come yet.
Because the Lawrence Wong's blog post was simply a wake-up call for people who were holding hope, especially for the couples who their first flat was purchasing a old flat. Those people would come with a big shock when they decide to sell off their flat and realizing that they are not getting back what they have actually put in.
Now on this note, let me give you some interesting statistics.
Yep.
Historically, private property go up, HDB go up, okay, and vice versa, right? But now you look at 2013 to just before COVID, before the recent spike in HDB prices, 2003 to about 2019, while the private property was going up, the HDB resale market was going down. I think at the worst point, the gap was like 20% between the two, you know. So this never happened before. And I think part of it is due to this 99-year lease problem, right? So that's why all these policy issues, changes, debate, right? You have to look at the market and see what happens. Okay,
to recap for those people who are joining us halfway, the dilemma we are looking at is people relying on HDB flat for retirement funds, but at the same time, the prices are getting so high for the public housing that the young couples could not afford. And even if they afford, they will come to a point where the question is, how high can the BTO prices go to at the end? Because based on the current rate that we're looking at, we might be looking at HDB going on $1 million in another 20 years.
See, the basic policy now, as we have been told, is that the BTO price, right, is back to the resale price. Okay, that means forever going up, in a sense, you know.
But is that sustainable?
It's not.
Right.
Okay, I'll give you another interesting statistic.
Yes.
You know, HDB always say, flats are very affordable because almost everybody who owns a flat don't use more than a quarter of the income to pay. Now, this is a fallacy in this statistical argument because, in the first place, those who can't afford won't buy, right? Okay, those who bought already, they cannot afford will have sold, right? So all the people who are still owning a HDB flat, obviously, will be paying, not more than a quarter of the income.
Correct. Yeah. They are not looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That's just
how many people cannot afford to buy in the first place?
Right.
How many people buy they cannot afford, got to give it up?
Right.
And how many people, when they retire, had to, downgrade or whatever,
Let's move on. HDB keep saying that they lose money they lose money for selling HDB flats. What's your point of that?
No lah, they make money lah, right? I give you what we call the chicken rice analogy lah, right? They say Terry, you go to a restaurant, eat chicken rice, $5, right?
Yes.
So I sell you at $3, is subsidy ma, right? Very good, right? And actually I lose money, because I sell you $3, I actually pay $4 for the chicken, the rice, What I forgot to tell you is that actually of the $4 I pay, $2 for the chicken actually is paid to my brother. So it's the left pocket to the right pocket transaction. So if you check the cash flows in and out, it still make money.
And interestingly, right, when you go to the SLA annual report, the amount of the land sale is not recorded inside.
Yeah, you asked me this morning. So anyway, I found it lah. It's in the budget statement. The budget statement has a column, land sale. So for financial year 2019, it's about 17 billion. Every year the land sale is about 10 billion.
But from an academic point of view, it's the way how it's presented. It poses a problem.
It should be on the SLA website or in the annual report lah. You don't expect people to know they have to go to the.
It shouldn't be a line item in the annual report. It should be a breakdown of, say, the plots of land. Okay. Not even plots. Private property.
They have a lot of that in the data.gov.sg,
yes.
Right? But then that doesn't tell you the overall picture. Only the budget statement tell you the overall land sales in a year. But every year it's like 10 plus billion.
Correct. And this is not recorded inside the income and expenditure, isn't it?
No, because land sales, you go into reserves, it's not considered as income in the budget.
So which is why every year we supposedly go into deficit because this land sale is not considered. Yeah,
if you're like some other countries where land sales count as income, then of course we have no deficit, or the budget will be surplus, will be much higher.
And the ideology of the principle of why is it not listed as a income is quite weird, right? Because they are saying that the land is scarce in Singapore, and therefore when the sale comes, it should not be considered as a income. But they are forgetting this point that the land is either on leash, meaning it's a 30, 60, or is it a 99-year leasehold? Because we no longer have a fish. Do we still have freehold? No, right? No. So basically, any land sale, there's a date in which the land will be retrieved back.
So every year still have 10 billion of land sales. I think going forward in perpetuity.
Yeah. So I think we roughly have. Have you actually looked at the SDP and Workers' Party proposal?
Yes.
What's your thought on theirs?
I think, generally speaking, it's very difficult to say, okay, I'm going to do policy A, B, C, D, E for HDB, right? Because you don't know how each of them will impact not just the HDB market, the economy and overall.
And private property as well.
Also private property. So I would say a ground up approach line, right? First you tackle the demand. PR cannot buy.
Okay.
And you tackle the price. You reduce the land cost gradually. So you test the market, see what happens. If it works without impacting the overall market too much, right? Then a lot of what I call policies to address specific issues will slowly solve the problem by itself. You don't have to overnight come up with an entirely different policy.
But at the end of the day, the policy must be able to address a problem that will emerge 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah. If you start reducing the land costs, your new flat prices will start to fall. More people can buy. There will be less speculation. Hopefully the resale price will not increase as much as they have been in the past. But hopefully it will still increase slower. Right?
So
then at the end of the day, then you are talking about your lease. What you do, your lease problem,
Yes.
So you can consider like other countries. If there's a family member leaving at the end of the 99-year lease, you can extend it for 5 years or something at a nominal cost.
And that's what a lot of people are asking for a extension lease. But then again, even if the government allows the extension of the leash, would our buildings last more than 99 years?
That is not a problem, because let's say you have one flat,
Yes.
you have 200 families, okay, and then when the flat is so old that you need to redevelop it, you have a few family, one or two, few families who still have a member living there at 99 years. Okay, you can give them alternative, accommodation, right? Doesn't mean as long as one person there still can extend, the whole flat cannot be torn down and rebuilt.
So something like SIRS?
Something like SIRS,
something like SIRS, right? So those people who are joining us here, if you have any questions in regards to this HDB or anything regards to HDB, feel free to just type
there are some minor issues we need to address, right?
Yes.
Like right now, when you buy a HDB flat, they give you what you call housing loan eligibility to check whether you can afford to take the loan. But the problem today is that they check you when you buy, and when the flat comes, they check again.
Yes.
Well, in the past, they only check when you buy, you see.
Yes.
So that caused a lot of problem, no? A lot of people buy the time they're eligible for the loan, then when the flat comes, they're not eligible.
Yeah.
Then you have a lot of policies that HDB, little things that need to be tweaked, right? You cannot have like single mother cannot rent anything bigger than a one room, flat or all this,
Sorry, what do you think about the subsidies? Yes. So,
Okay.
so the thing is, right, HDB, the government keeps saying that the HDB are affordable because a young couple could receive up to 180,000, I think 160 or 180,000 worth of rent.
80,000.
So you have,
80,000, yeah.
80,000.
Yeah.
I remember
You
this.
see, the problem with all these subsidies is
Yes.
now the price keeps going up.
Yes.
Okay, some people get subsidy, some people not eligible. Okay, then in order to get very high subsidy, your household income got to be very low. To get the max, your household income must be below 1,500.
Which is what happened to a couple. A couple.
And many other eligibility issues. You must be a first timer.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
No, in
Okay. Put it in this way, okay.
Yes.
You total up all the grants in 1 year.
Yes.
Divide by the total
houses
that they sell. Then you see every year, right? Then you can see the grants are a small percentage of the overall collection, which keeps increasing every year. It's like healthcare, if I say, okay, I give you higher subsidy, but then the cost keep on going up, right? So I need to know subsidy divided by total, is it
how much is the exact?
Yeah, is it going up now, right? And the problem with a lot of this is like it's like the genie after government transfers. So I say, I count the housing subsidy as a transfer, But if you didn't buy a HDB flat or you bought one, you're not eligible for a grant, you don't get anything.
Yes.
Right? So subsidies that are available only to some people, some don't get it, but you take the whole lot, you divide by everybody and say, everybody got this, government transfers. That is a huge, issue in itself.
For conflating the issues.
And don't forget, all these grants, when if you want to buy another one, you have to return the grant,
Yes.
Okay.
And that grant is you also have to consider in the interest, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the one that so I was wrong at the very beginning. I'm not talking about the CPF interest. I'm talking about the grant. People don't realize that when you sell your flat, you don't just consider.
No, but that's only if you buy another new flat.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So if the person
if you buy your second new flat, right? You not only have to pay the resale levy, you have to pay the grant plus interest of any grant that you took in the beginning.
Which is very sizable if you're talking about 20 years. 80,000.
Now, the other big problem that we don't know is this. A lot very low, you say less than 1,000 income can buy HDB flat. Of course, they only found like 10 over family who could do that. But you see, if you volunteer, you do financial counseling, you see a lot of cases, if the income is so low, then they manage to buy the flat, are they able to pay the loan going forward for the next 25, 30 years? If they can't, then the flat is gone. So it's not just the grant to help you to buy a flat.
And so sustain.
You must have the income to be able to sustain the mortgage for full mortgage term.
Correct. And in the case of the couple that I'm trying to highlight, which was reported in the news, is a couple that applied for the BTO when they were still students. So their income altogether was less than 1,500. But of course, by the time they got their keys and went to working environment, of course their wage was high. In fact, I don't think they would qualify for the 80,000 anymore. So
then you get the other problem lah. They decide not to get married, then you have to forfeit your deposit. No?
Sorry?
You decide not to get married, you have to forfeit your deposit. No?
To your understanding, how much of it? How many couples are like that?
I think that they just released the latest statistics. Not a lot lah. I think it's like few percent only. Yeah. But then you see, then it's become a social issue. No? People rushing to
get married.
Like to get HDB flat, we must say we're going to, going to get married lah, right? Then later on you got a problem. Yeah, right. If we break up, we don't get married, we lose the deposit. So what do we do?
In name.
Yeah, in name. Then how? Then even worse, right?
Yeah. Have affair.
No, I know people who already broke up, but legally still own the flat because haven't meet the 5-year minimum occupation period.
So to sell to divide.
Yeah. Because you haven't meet the MOP 5 year, you cannot you sell you cannot make any gains at all. Yeah.
So, say if I were the couple purchase the flat, but before meeting
MOP, must try to cross the 5-year minimum occupation period
and sell the flat and to profit from the thing.
Yeah.
But if I were to so-called return the flat, would I be still considered as a first-time buyer?
Yeah, already considered first-time buyer. I think so. Yeah.
I see.
Or there's less priority when you apply the next time or something like.
Okay. Then that would justify that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you're not considered.
So other than the price and the supply, there are all these issues as well.
But their opinions like.
Why do you think our total fertility rate is the lowest for Singapore and the second lowest in the world now?
But in that sense, they are penalizing people who are making some thoughts over their personal life, because if say they are not penalized for being the first time buyers, if they
more stress people have to factor in HDB in their marriage
correct.
Divorce right. So you divorce, you normally have a lot of problems, right? Because you may on divorce the loan stops, you see, then you got to redo the loan,
Yes.
So the person who is given the flat or whatever eligible to have another loan or not, or whether can have enough to pay your other spouse CPF in order to own that. A lot of people can't. Or do I have enough, CPF or cash or combination to buy over the other spouse, CPF use. So this creates a lot of social problems.
My friend as well. So the one person has never purchased a BTO flat. The other person has already purchased a BTO flat, and so it's a second time.
No more first time.
Yeah.
No more grant.
So together, not just that, because together, right, they can't purchase a BTO flat.
They
can't apply for it because
you're not eligible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
no.
And the thing is,
most common one. A lot of people, they put the name of the parents' flat to help the parent to pay, right? Then finish it. You cannot.
And they are being penalized.
For helping your parents to use your CPF to pay for the flat.
And when they apply for BTO, they are
not first timer.
No, they can't even apply.
Oh yeah, of course. You have to take your name out from the existing flat to be a non-HDB owner in order to apply for HDB.
No, my understanding is you can't even apply.
No, you have to take your name out. But to take your name out, you have to put back all the CPF and interest that you have already used to help your parents to pay.
Yes.
So then a lot of problem.
Yeah. Yes. So
So we are quite unique. I think most countries don't have all this, other than the affordability, the supply, the price. All this quite unique to Singapore.
So Alice actually said, what LKY said was totally opposite from Lawrence Wong. So did Lawrence Wong override Lee Kuan Yew? Actually, no. I think
No, it has always been a 99-year lease.
Yeah.
It's just that the perception, you know, they keep telling you, oh, asset enhancement, so don't worry, you know, asset enhancement, right?
But it
You know?
cannot be.
Yeah. Until, you know, finally you're
might-
reminded that,
It might be if it's a freehold, right? If it's a freehold, definitely the price would forever increase in price. But a leasehold, basically, there's a limitation on how long you can hold
Okay. Let's look at all the leasehold private property,
Yes.
right? How is it that is a forever asset enhancement? Because historically, they always get their lease topped up, you see.
in other countries.
No, in Singapore, all the 99-year lease condominiums and all that.
Okay.
As they get older, they can always top up the lease. So it's a perpetual asset enhancement.
But why doesn't it apply to public housing?
Public housing, there's simply too many, you know. Physically, as you have more and more flats that need to do this, can you knock down to build so many in every year? No? You can't. I mean, it's like in theory, can I do search for every flat that hits 50-year-old? No? Physically impossible.
What do you mean by not the lowest, second lowest? Lease. Leash. Okay. So anything you add more on HDB?
I think it's crucial that we start to solve this problem of HDB, because you cannot kick the bucket down the road. No? You know, don't worry, 20 years later we will have burst. Then in the meantime, all the flats declining in value. Then all these people who cannot afford to buy, then how?
Yes.
You know, we have to start fixing this and not say, oh no, the solution will come burst in 20 years or whatever, right? Oh, then it's like when you take a lease buyback scheme, then they say, oh, what if I'm still alive after 30 years? So don't worry, when the time, then we will help you, right? So we can have all this uncertainty, you know, I think continue.
But it's the in interest of the incumbent for this perception to persist.
So let me I just thought ethnic quota problem. You know, ethnic quota. A flat cannot have more than how many percent Malays or something, you know, right, Chinese. So once you exceed the quota, then especially for minority, you may have a problem, no? Because you cannot sell to the majority, or you can sell to the minority. So your market who are able to buy is become. So you can see in the one block of flat, because of ethnic quota, two flats may have very wide disparity in the price, because one can only sell to
minority.
Minority. Yeah.
The
So
CMI.
all these are. I mean, I think after 60 years of nationhood, I don't think we need such draconian measures anymore,
And
or
as
at least to
the-
the extent that
And
we
as
have today.
the academics and politicians have pointed out, in Singapore, the CMIO model doesn't really gel into the demographic anymore.
What is CMIO?
Chinese, Malay, Indian.
Yeah.
Because
I think we are quite race blind already. Huh?
but it's not the race blindness. It's that you have so much mixed marriages.
Yeah.
So you have.
Of course, now you can actually choose. You know, if your father, mother different,
No,
you
but
can choose which one to be your main race.
Yes.
And I think later on can change also. if you want.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
but it defeats the purpose of Singapore being a multicultural and multiracial society, where we are still stuck on this CMYO model, because
then it's not fair. It's discriminatory in the sense because some people may be worse off. You see.
And if
for no rhyme and reason, you know. Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, like for a Filipino, if we were to convert to a Singapore citizen, that thing is under Malay.
Oh, that I'm not very sure about that.
What I've been
okay.
told.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And others is so weird. What mean others? Right, Caucasian.
No, we do financial counseling. Get a lot of these cases.
Where it's simply because of
the
this.
poor guy says, you know, I simply cannot sell my flat because the price is so low. My neighbor can sell so much more than me. Why? Okay.
Oh, this is a Malay, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that typically is a minority race, lah.
I see. Yep. Would you say that the Malay and Indian market is smaller now as compared to when HDB first initiated? Because or the ethnic ratio is introduced.
I think very slight drop in the Malay, very slight, maybe 1% or what, not a significant drop. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So I think we have already exceeded 1 hour of this live stream. Before we end, is there any burning question you'd like Mr. Leong to answer?
Now, let me just add on another issue, and that is, how many people cannot pay and therefore had to give up their flats?
Do you have the
statistics? I mean, in the days when only HDB provide loans, then you have statistics, how many people are in arrears for 3 months, how many people could not pay, had their flat foreclosed or that. Now, because most people take bank loans, because bank loan has always been cheaper than the HDB loan rate of 2.6%, since they were allowed to offer HDB loans from 1st January 2003. That means throughout, the bank loan is cheaper. Okay, but of course, let me say this from my experience doing financial counseling. Generally speaking, HDB loan, you can't pay, you can see your MP and you probably have some leeway. You can track maybe a year or even more. But for bank loans, you cannot pay 6 months, then you have a problem. And of course, for bank loans, if you cannot pay, your interest will jump, Right? Instead of 1 point something, it will become 9.25% or something, penalty interest, right? Because you are not paying the monthly installment or you're late.
It's snowball basically.
Yeah.
But HDB, can they foreclose?
Yeah, they can. Yeah,
they can.
Yeah, the joke used to be that nobody lets HDB foreclose because HDB in the early days when they foreclose, they only give you like 90% of their valuation, based on the time they give you the letter, not the time they take your house. So very low. So most people will say, I'm better off selling the open market, desperate, because I still get more money than if I wait for foreclosure.
If you're bankrupt, is your HDB protected from?
Your HDB is protected from creditors. However, this is very important. If for this whole hour, what I'm going to tell you now, in my view, is the most important. And that is, we come across a lot of cases in financial counseling. They say, I'm so poor, so they sell the HDB to try to make ends meet, and your HDB is protected from creditors, right? If you sell your HDB, then all the proceeds is not protected from creditors, no. But if you wait until you are bankrupt, after you are bankrupt, then you sell your HDB, all the proceeds are protected from creditors.
So don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic. If you really think that you are going to be bankrupt or something, don't sell your HDB before you are bankrupt, because the proceeds will be taken by the creditors. Sell HDB after bankrupt, all the proceeds is yours, they cannot touch.
Ming Hao is asking, so to buy HDB with CPF would mean that government save on incurred paying interest on CPF. So is it a double whammy? Actually, not really, right? Because if the money is not in CPF, therefore they don't have to pay the interest in the first place.
Yeah, but you use your CPF to pay for the house, man?
Yeah. So basically, you're paying yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you're paying for your.
The big issue is not this. The big issue is that if you are getting 2.5% interest on your CPF, then the government invests your money. What's the return that they are getting? Is it much more than the 2.5 percent? Now, on the question of creditor protection, something very interesting. Your CPF is protected from creditors. Okay? So, after you take out your CPF, if any creditor asks you for money, I say, sorry, man, this money is protected from creditors. I've seen people who actually give up their CPF protected money to creditors. When I say creditors, I'm referring to those that, before you took out your CPF. You cannot say, I take out my CPF, then I borrow a lot of money, then all this future money I borrow, I also protected. No, right? It's only protected from the people you owe money, okay, before you took out your CPF at 55 or whatever. Of course, all these CPF life monthly payouts are also all protected from creditors. But here's another thing that most people don't know. If you use your CPF for investment, right? You're protected from creditors only when you're alive, you know. On death, your CPF investment goes to your estate, so it's not protected from creditors.
Yeah, it's free for all.
Yeah, so you must sell all your CPF investment. If you're not going to die, you will quickly sell. You must sell all away, right? And please don't give your CPF or your insurance or any assets to a person who is bankrupt or is likely to be bankrupt, because whether it's CPF or cash or whatever, the person die, go to this person who is bankrupt, all gone, you know,
Yes.
taken by creditors. Or go to the person, then the person become bankrupt, also all gone. So please don't put a bankrupt or a person who think going to be bankrupt as your CPF nominee or your insurance beneficiary or as a beneficiary in your estate.
So Cassie Wong asks, so why do we have to pay for the interest of grant when we purchase when we sell a HDB and downgrade to a smaller flat?
Well, this is a policy issue, right? Right. They say, I help you to buy, so if you buy another one, I will take it back. No? It's similar to your
why interest?
It's a policy issue. Same issue, resale levy, right? Why is it that when I buy another new flat, I have to pay a resale levy? You're forcing me to buy you're forcing me to buy a resale flat, so I don't have to pay a resale levy. So this will jack up the price of resale flat, you know. Because if I buy a new second flat, I have to pay resale levy. I buy a resale flat, I don't have to pay resale levy. Another one, protection. If you die in the hospital, okay, your Medisave account, okay, if it's already been exhausted in the sense that you already used up your Medisave withdrawal limit, eligibility limit, okay, and you still have money in your Medisave account. If you die in the hospital, they can take this one also. If you die at home, cannot. Because you die at home, your Medisave account is also protected from creditors, including the hospital, because you already exhausted your Medisave withdrawal and eligibility limits.
Correct.
But the policy was changed a few years ago. If you die in the hospital, right, whatever in there, they can take whatever is owing to them. So sometimes I give you an example. I have, let's say the person has 60,000 in the Medisave, right? And then actually owe the hospital 60,000. But this 60,000 in Medisave cannot use already because it exceeded the withdrawal and the eligible limit, okay? And then he's a very poor guy, you know, he has no other assets, okay? Die in the hospital, all gone. Die at home, the 60,000 go to his CPF nominee or beneficiaries, right? And if they're a poor family, at least they got 60,000, you know?
In cash.
Yeah. So Singapore, very strange place, you know. It's like minefield, you know. You have to be aware of all this. That you ever read about any of this in the media? No, right? Yeah.
No, but in that situation, which family in the right mind would say, "Oh, father, you're going to die soon. Quickly come out from the hospital so that you will die at home." It's
important to know, right?
It's important.
I will come from families who have so poor, they have nothing at all, you know. This 60,000 can do wonders for the beneficiaries, you know.
Because your CPF is exhausted in your HDB, and the only thing that's not touched is your
you have no cash or nothing, right?
Yeah. So yes, so we have come to the end of today's live talk. If you would like to see any topics that's being covered, please just write inside the comments so that we could refer to and do more research on the matter. Any topics that you would be inclined to touch on the next week?
Maybe ask people to choose what you like us to talk about next week, you know. Demand and supply.
But any preference?
CPF maybe. I think the big issue in Singapore is HDB, CPF, healthcare, and jobs. These are the perpetual, you know.
So
maybe we can talk about jobs because a lot of issues on jobs. Nowadays.
Before we end, someone Jim asked, in the case of joint tenancy, if one party dies, does it mean that in a sale the money goes back to CPF?
There are two types of tenancy. Joint tenancy and tenants in common. Most HDB I see is joint tenancy. That means one person dies, the whole flat goes to the survivor. Okay. Yeah. So it goes to the survivor, you know. it doesn't, the CPF used by the one who died doesn't go back to the deceased person's CPF, because the whole thing goes to the whole flat goes to the survivor.
Okay. So it doesn't go to the CPF first?
No.
How
to go to CPF? You're not selling your flat, right?
Yes.
Right. In the tenants in common is different. Is split, let's say 50-50. Okay. So the person die, the survivor only inherits 50% of the flat. Now here another thing I want to tell you. When you write your will or whatever, then you say, okay, if say both the person die or something, right? Then or in some cases where they're left only a single owner or something, who you want to give it to? So you must think carefully, right? I've seen cases where the flat end up with a beneficiary who not eligible to own a HDB flat.
Because the person already owns
or whatever, or sold a private property not more than 30 months ago, whatever eligibility issues are, then you have a problem. Then the flat cannot pass on to a person.
Because your will,
it has to be sold.
Yeah.
Right?
Who will be selling? Who will be selling?
Whoever is the legal representative of the estate. If you have a will, then you have your executors. If you don't have will, then what you call the administrators of the estate.
But that's still fine in a sense.
But a lot of issues problems is that they still want to stay there, but then they have no choice. They have to sell you away.
I mean, the person who received the property,
because it's not eligible to own the flat. So you got to think of all these issues.
Yes. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We are trying to improve on our program. This is the second series so far.
All these are live one, no rehearsal, nothing.
No script.
We didn't even talk for 1 minute before we start.
So we are trying to improve on this program. We envision we try to start it at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. every Wednesday. We try, because the whole setup is actually by me, so it's sometimes we do end up in some technical issues, so we can't proceed as for now. So if I don't get arrested by the police, or the police don't come and arrest me, and other issues, we would likely start this at 1 p.m. on Wednesday every week.
Oh, and this is one final warning. This one I just came across a case, right? Because this is not a HDB case, but similar principle applies. Okay, the person, nowadays all the statement every month is e-statement.
Yes.
Since the person was traveling overseas or something, so when there's a shortfall in your mortgage payment in a month, the interest jump from 1 point something to 9.25%. Okay, or for some reason you pay late, also. And this jump of 1 point something percent loan to 9.25 is on the entire loan. So I can be short $1 or late 1 day. I still get charged 9.25% on the entire loan.
Is this by HDB?
For bank loan.
Bank loan, okay.
So HDB don't have this problem. Okay. So that's why sometimes from a risk perspective, even though the interest is higher at 2.6, people may say, I think the HDB flat, less risk. Less risk. For problem, I can see my MP, I wouldn't like interest jump to 9.25%.
But really, looking at it, HDB loan is safer, isn't it?
From a risk perspective,
yes.
Because you got problem paying, you can go and see your MP, and then you can drag a bit, right? Then your interest will check up to 9.25% or whatever right? The bank is charging. I know for private property now, loans 1 point something become 9 point something. HDB I don't know, but there is also a penalty interest, whether it's as high as 9.25.
But they can't go too far.
But this case I came across is very strange, because this thing went on for like maybe 2 years or something, short payment or late payment. So the interest built up so much, right? That eventually they lost their condo. So right?
But they managed to sell off at least for some money.
No, you lost your condo means the bank foreclosed your condo and sell for you.
In the market, sell for you in the market. But you won't be getting the best price.
So most important, right? Any short payment, your interest jump from 1 point something to 9.25 on the entire loan. Any late payment, 1 day late also, same.
Yes.
The loan interest 1 point something jump about 9.25.
Wow. It's really quite a minefield, isn't it?
That's why my foreign friends, they come, they say, wow, Singapore, so many minefield.
Okay, before we really end, would you like to pitch for your crowdfunding again?
Pitch for crowdfunding.
Yeah. So as all might know by now, so Mr. Leong Sze Hian was sued by the Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong for defamation for sharing on Facebook. For sharing an article on Facebook. So the judge awarded 133,000 in general and aggregated damages just last week. And so far, $90,759 have been raised, and we hope by end of this week we would see the amount being raised.
I hope you are right. And actually, you just mentioned the latest minefield in Singapore. You know.
What was that?
You touch your Facebook share button.
Yes.
Okay. I understand I'm the first person in the history of the world to be sued for defamation for sharing on Facebook a news report from a news website without any comment. In fact, I have a friend, very cute.
Yes.
She was telling me, oh, I must be very careful. She has 2 babies, 1 year or 2 year old. She said, I must be very careful. You know. Cannot leave my phone around my babies. After the exercise, touch the share button, and then I will get a defamation letter of demands. Right? So this is the latest minefield. Sharing on Facebook news report for a news website without any comment. You pay $133,000 damages plus costs. But thank you everyone. I'm really so grateful. After 6 days, already have $90,759. Thank you.
Someone asked, can we be sued if we share this video? Okay, so far, there's nothing on personal. There's no personal allegations on individuals, whether it's against LKY, Lawrence Wong. The government cannot sue for defamation. This is something that you have to remember. Government cannot sue for defamation.
Only individuals can sue for
individual.
defamation. Yeah. Government cannot sue, but government can charge you for criminal defamation.
Also can't. Also can't. So in my case, in my criminal defamation case, the people who are supposed to be criminal defamed are said to be individual members of the cabinet.
Okay.
So they are not the actual charge itself is not cabinet being defamed. It's individual members of the cabinet. That's what the prosecution.
So this is the only circumstance where you can be charged for criminal defamation.
Yes, individuals.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's entity, no.
So why didn't they individually sue you for civil defamation?
This is a question that has to be asked the investigating
because criminal
officer.
defamation got jail term, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. My civil defamation don't have jail.
I believe it's 2 years. 2 years, up to 2 years. Yeah.
So you better tune in every week, because you may not see Terry
by end of the year
for 2 years. No more online citizen, no more live talk. But I don't think so, lah. Yeah. You know why I don't think so, Terry?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
If, as you say, that the defamation damages of 133,000 is all crowdfunded and paid by Singaporeans.
Individuals.
Right? Yeah. Then I think this is have a crucial implication for your case, because although you are being asked to pay 400,000.
Oh, that's the civil defamation. Have to separate. Yeah.
So if I can raise 133,000 for the people to pay, I don't think you have a problem. Asking people to pay 400,000. I don't think they will, because the higher the amount, the more people will pay. Right? It's like a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
In the sense, I think the important point people have to understand for donating for such causes is actually not helping you in sense of so that you won't be bankrupt, but most importantly to send a message to the politicians in Singapore that you cannot try the same antics in the past, like what you did to JBJ, Shi Chun Juan, Deng Liang Hong, where you can just simply file frivolous lawsuits against individual and then win, causing the individuals to be bankrupt and therefore not able to stand for election, and also to intimidate the general public. So if the general populace subscribe to this idea, support the crowdfunding to defray the cost from the damages, the politician would know that such attempts would not work no longer.
I hope this is the last time that any politician will sue ordinary citizens for defamation, because hopefully they will realize that it does not pay.
No, I also believe that individuals, even politicians, should have the right to sue for defamation, but it should be in the form of seeking vindication from the false allegation. So in this case of the Singapore Prime Minister, given that he's the highest paid civil servant in the world, he should have just asked for a token sum in terms, okay, I believe what he can take his position that what you shared is highly defamatory of his character, but he does not wish to see. However, in asking for that, he does not ask for such high damages from you, because clearly from the high damages you're seeking to ruin you financially, especially in my case, $400,000, crazy.
Then you frighten everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody will
From
dare
sharing
to. Nobody will dare to.
Yeah.
It takes away your right of freedom of expression. I mean, when you see a news report and then it's from a news website, I mean, how do you know? After all, the law minister said under POFMA that no civil or criminal defamation liability for sharing news.
No. It's not criminal. Yeah. Sharing of articles would not
fake news, will not incur civil or no. But in any case, historically, damages paid to politicians have always been donated to charity, Yeah.
Oh, on that. This is where people have to understand. If the Prime Minister, when they receive the damages, donate to the charity, it's not just donation, because he also received tax exemption, tax relief.
Yes.
So let's example. He received 100,000 from Mr. Leong. He donates to charity. He still receive 2-3 times.
I think it's 2 or 2.5 times now.
2 times. So it's 200
tax deduction.
So it's 250,000 in tax reduction. So he doesn't have to pay 250,000 tax.
Deduction from his income,
Yeah.
His income more than 2 million, so deduct 10% of the income.
Yeah. That's sizable, right? So yes.
But actually, it's a lot of money, right? 200,000 is like 1/3 of a mayor's pay.
Yeah. Okay. Is Roy Ng's money donated to charity? The thing is, Roy Ng haven't finished paying the money.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah, but we understand historically, politicians have always donated the damages to charity.
Yeah, not as a way of profiting. Yeah. So that's it for today. Thank you everyone, and have a nice day. Bye. Let me just stop this first.